flagpole in their back garden, and they actually have a relationship with it, and they like flying it. It makes them think of nice things. But this latest outburst, this latest craze, if you like, of sticking them up all over the place, and almost wanting a negative response, wanting someone to tell you to take them down so you can accuse them of something, and that's where the marking of territory.
Absolutely. He's quite well known on YouTube, and there's a lot of podcasts with Tommy Cameron, and he was standing there with a lot of your listeners who'll probably have seen this video, and I'm sure someone will send you a link. He's standing next to the police officer and he's going, shake my hand, and the police officer is saying, no, I'm not shaking your hand. This is outrageous. Why won't you shake my hand? You're woke. And he's screaming abuse at the police, and it's like, you're doing it for attention. A lot of these people are just doing it for clicks and likes and TikTok streams and revenue, but they're doing it so they can tell and say, he won't shake my hand. He's with the blokes. He's with this. He's with the Economic World Forum.
Someone's going to ring in and disagree with you, but you've covered an awful... You've clearly been thinking about it long before I asked the question this morning, because the good news is that's one of the best calls I can remember. That's one of the best calls I've taken this week, Dan. It's coming up to 10:27. You're listening to the Double Jump Show on NBC, but there it is. Working in the local charities, and as part of the same process of public spirit and community feeling, you're now going to go and hand some Chinese-made bunting on a lamppost on your local high street. So that could be it. I don't know. I'm not necessarily being sarcastic. Darren is in Cheshire. Darren, what would you like to say?
James, good morning to you. Welcome back from holiday.
Thank you. Carry on.
I'm a first-time caller, but I listen to your programme all the time. I would just like to say that I remain totally perplexed by these flags. So I'm in Cheshunt in Hertfordshire, and they've gone up over, I think, the last weekend, all along the road or the close to where I live. And I think it's to do with the Marriott Hotel, or what used to be the Marriott Hotel in Cheshunt, which is now hosting or housing the those seeking asylum, the economic migrants. And what it is, I like flags. We had a street party here for the King's coronation. Flags were displayed at Union Jack Anson.
But there's no mystery on that day why those flags are being put up, is there? There's no phoning. we are staking our claim, we are marking our territory, we are telling people who do not look like us that they are not welcome. I hope not. But if you don't like that analysis, then you need to explain anything to 0345 6069 7. Dominic Ellis is on there.
The Home Secretary is to outline plans later to tighten things on family members during migrants granted asylum in the UK. Yvette Cooper will also tell the Commons there's been progress in smoking gangs. As MPs return to Westminster today, the Prime Minister has announced a series of new appointments to the Downing Street team. Darren Jones is moving from Treasury Chief Secretary to a new role in charge of the day-to-day delivery of his priorities. The flu jabs being offered to 2- and 3-year-olds at nurseries in England for the first time. All children aged between 2 and 16 are eligible for the rollout ahead of winter. LBC weather, sunny spells and showers for most, the best of the sunshine.
So dark it comes with a therapist.
To the uneducated palate, does it taste like burnt tyre?
Would scientists compare the taste of dark? Other tasting notes, glue.
No pretentiousness, no complexity, no bitterness. Just smooth. Every bourbon made to be enjoyed, not endured.
The Virgin Atlantic holiday sale is now on. This is your sign to taste Jamaican jerk chicken. It brings a tear to your eye. Catch a New York basement gig worth the 10-block detour.
protests outside buildings where asylum seekers are being accommodated. A phenomenon statistic that makes up roughly 4% of immigration into this country, which was given as the only story the £10 billion deal that was signed to build anti-submarine warships for Norway, something that strengthened NATO's northern flank and is part of a double company, two countries' plan for joint operations in Northern Europe. A story that was, I think, would have dominated the news agenda. I don't know. It certainly would have received perhaps a little bit more attention than it is currently receiving. Angela Rayner's housing arrangements. I've tried to get my head around what it is she's supposed to have done wrong. And I can't currently tell you. I think a house she doesn't own is designated as her main residence for one reason, and the house that she does own is... No, I've lost it. It's gone again. But anyway, it's very important, and she's been very, very naughty. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that she's a working class woman. Because anyone would be treated in exactly the same fashion if they were found to, for example, accidentally bought 7 flats and forgotten to alert the parliamentary authority. Back to the flats. Why are they being harmed? And what is your response to that? Jim is in Essex. Jim, what would you like to say?
Good morning, James. You may call me James if you prefer to use that rather than Jim. I'm quite happy with either. just to keep your set complete.
That's good. We go a double echo chamber. You can only go on the show if you actually call James today. Never mind your politics. Carry on, Jim. James.
My observation is that one of the circumstances where flags are used commonly is during wartime. And during wartime, it's necessary to have an enemy. And I think that a combination of media coverage, etc., has led us to the point that our enemy has been well and truly established, which reminds me a little of the Lawrence Rees book, if I could refer to that.
Yes.
So I think that it's essentially a country which is demonstrating its opposition to a particular enemy and doing it in a very visual way by using the national flag.
And the enemy is?
The enemy, I need hardly say who the enemy is. The enemy is the group of people who are coming into the country across the channel, basically.
Are we sure that it doesn't go further than that? Because the marking of territory and the hanging of flags in areas that don't have any asylum hotels, it strikes many people as running a bit deep. Some of the incidents that are being covered, it almost feels reluctantly by some corners of the media, are showing NHS workers being abused in public, for example. That's got nothing to do with small vote.
I think that the current circumstances have moved the needle hugely. I think that had we not had the problem, if that's the correct term to use, of the people coming across the channel, I don't think we would have reached this same behaviour pattern at this point in time.
And because that becomes a sort of pivot point. I wonder how many people listening are thinking that I'm wrong when I say that figure of 4%, when I talk about the statistical relevance of that particular mode of coming here in the absence of any safe routes. People labouring under the illusion that the problem, and like Jim, I put that in quotes, is infinitely larger than the reality. And who is to blame for that? I mean, obviously some of the political figures like Dalenha and Farage, honest Bob Jenrick and the rest of them, although the Labour government isn't doing much to challenge this particular narrative. There's a superb piece in the Wall Street Journal, not a newspaper that I read every day, I have to be honest, but sometimes to go back to that Ravi Burns poem about seeing yourself as others see you and how valuable and important that can be. There's a superb piece in the Wall Street Journal that just drops so many simple truths into the conversation that we wonder why nobody in the UK media is doing the same thing. The Tories lost control. I'll read it to you, actually, because it's really important. It's all down to Brexit. After Brexit, the UK government, the then Conservative Prime Minister Boris Johnson, embarked on a new migration experiment. It slammed the door on European immigration, only to open it to the rest of the world. The idea was to goose a sluggish economy by attracting the planet's best and brightest people. The Tories, despite repeatedly promising lower overall immigration levels, soon lost control of the system they designed. You can start making a list, if you want, of the Tory politicians who will never, ever, ever, including, I presume, the ones that were sitting in this chair last week, refer to this simple and irrefutable reality. They lost control of the system they designed, triggering the biggest influx of legal migration the country has ever seen. In just one job field, care aides who look after the infirm or elderly, one government forecast assumed some 6,000 migrants a year would come to them. In the space of 4 years, 679,900 carers and their families arrived. That's the government's own figure. That is, I mean, lest anyone be under any illusions about where the line between racism and reality lies, that is a ridiculous and unsustainable political fate. If you were expecting 6,000 people and you got 700,000, then you have booed, you have goofed, you have erred. I personally would blame the politicians responsible for any negative impact of that reality rather than the poor people who've come here. But that is what Yvette Cooper is trying to fix today. She is trying to fix a mess, an anomaly, an obvious error inflicted upon this country by Boris Johnson and his colleagues, by successive Tory governments. She is trying to fix it. What is the working media doing? Well, you don't need me to tell you. And why are people hanging flags? Thank you, Jim. Chris is in hand. Chris, what would you like to say?
Well, James, I'm going to say that I think that the councils, when they're taking the flag down, have made a massive mistake.
They're not doing a very good job. Where are they taking them down? Because most of the things I've been saying already, including someone who's been in touch with his own council, explain why they're staying up. The flags coming down, so same day, but maybe perhaps other flags are still in down to the flag for a week. No, but in terms of what you've witnessed in that experience.
Means that I'm now part of a growing undercurrent of people who probably think that, do you know what? They should be left up there. Because this is England,
but they are being left up there.
Well, that's good. And that is good. And I think that even whether it's true or not, the narrative about them coming down has really annoyed people who genuinely wouldn't care.
Right.
Because, how can I put it? This is England. If you want to put up an England flag, there's nothing wrong with that, and there shouldn't be. The fact that it's been...
Well, unless it's in an area where you're not allowed to put anything.
Well, that would...
I mean, I know they've taken one down because the rope, which had been strung across the road, was so strong that if a high vehicle had gone into it, it could have caused a hideous accident. So those are the ones that are generally being taken down. The historic examples of this are almost always areas where you're not allowed to hang anything at all. And then the Daily Telegraph or the Daily Mail gets hold of it, and they pretend that it's an assault on the English flag. I think they're aiming for people like you, aren't they, when they print those misinformation? Because you've just said you're getting it from the news. You've got no evidence that it's true, but you're definitely certain that you're cross. And to quote you, this is England.
It's a matter of the fact that if you vote to put up a flag, you should be able to put up Union flag or the St George's Cross. And even though it's a bit annoying...
Where should you be?
There's one way one things like this on the...
But if you live on that street and you don't know?
Well, to be fair, I live down the corner from St Kim, with the fantastic Golden Lights, and her family's house has had them up.
Yeah, but there's no mystery about that. That's not the fact that we're talking about. That this is nothing to do with support, for example, for the political party. So, I mean, I'm just intrigued by this sort of blanket right that you think people have to put these flags up because, to quote you again, this is England. What if I don't want it?
And it's almost like
if you just have a little crack at the question I've asked you, what about my rights not to have them on my street? I'm not going to tell you can't put them up in your garden or in your sitting room window or wherever else you might want, or on your car bonnet or whatever it may be. But what if I don't want mine going around or I don't want flags on my street? What happens to my rights, the public street?
Well, this is England, and so if you go round and you see a flag, here it is, it's England's flag. You have to realise that it's where they live.
So absolutely everywhere, all the time. No limit, no point at which you go, that's a bit much.
To do it at the moment, I think it's just proving the point when you tell us we can't do it.
Yeah.
At some point they'll go forward, they'll go back to normal, just for the football tournaments and things like that. But I think it's got to the point where you said we can't do it, and now we're definitely going to do it.
There will be some examples of where people have been told to take them down, but it's interesting that you're basing it on your news reports rather than the evidence with your own eyes and ears. Because that is what the news reports are designed to do. I think it's sort of a bit more right than perhaps you realise. It is absolutely designed and done in the hope that people will be told to take it down so that then people can get cross and complain. Just briefly, this question of marking territory, how do you respond to that analysis? It's a marking of, I think you agree, don't you? Because this is England, and it's not English. Just suck it up, snowflake.
It can be seen as that, but I suggest it's going to be a small flash in in the pan just because people were told they couldn't do it. They're proving that they can.
So they're marking their territory. The message it sends to people who are not English is not a very nice message.
No, I don't think that's true. I think for the people who are English and maybe don't like it for any number of reasons, they do live in England and they will see it sometimes. So at the moment, it's a flashpoint. It's a flashpoint. So it will go away.
I wonder. It is. I mean, what happens? Do they take them down again? How does it go away? You don't want them taken down. They go away. It's a wrestling with as we head towards the next hiatus. It's definitely going to go away, but you definitely shouldn't be allowed to take them down. What do you mean that?
Coming up this week on Tom Swarbrick. The millionaires say they're ready to pack up and leave the country.
Is our country a happy place to be? Because that's all that this money should be doing.
How do we actually get growth in the UK? Dragon's Den star Deborah Needham joins me live. Plus,
Keir Starmer said, well, if you don't like it, leave. So I did.
It is the battle royale of British politics. The new left versus the new right. I'll host a debate between the two. And as the cost of the weekly food shop rises, I'll speak to Iceland's chairman, Richard Walker. Tom Swarbrick. Monday to Friday from 4 p.m. Listen on your radio, on Global Player, and the new LBC app.
Frozen berry glass, please.
All right, love. Do you know what? You don't. You see Pete sleeping over there? I got the sun cream and I've only gone and drawn it.
Oh, but that's not Pete.
This is very funny.
Avoid having the wrong kind of fun in the sun. At Specsavers, get 2 for 1 in tinted sunglasses from £70 with single vision lenses to the same prescription. Terms and conditions apply. See in store for details.
How exciting is it to play the British Heart Foundation's weekly flat out? Exciting enough to get your heart racing. Just a little bit. Text to one. The same time they text you. Like flipping pancakes with majestic grace. Or spotting that last parking space. Yes, with the added joy of knowing the money you donate helps to fund life-saving research. £1 to play, £1,000 to win every week. Search British Heart Foundation Weekly Lottery. See, it's a little bit exciting.
Gamble responsibly. Over 18s only. T's and C's apply. Please see our website for more details. British Heart Foundation is a registered charity.
I've been asked by Shredded Wheat to read out their ingredients list. Whole grain wheat. No, that's it. Single ingredient, high fibre cereal.
exactly. Why all of
Could
a
be the
sudden?
Rugby World, could be the Women's Rugby World Cup.
They've never put it up in the Women's Rugby Club or the England football team or any other time. It's all of a sudden the England flag has gone up. So, you know, again, like, I'm a Muslim person, and I
the operational manufacturing strategy, that's on the government website.
So, in the specific area of manufacturing,
and let's celebrate it. I'm trying to understand why people are putting flags up. I sort of help out around these man's club and stuff like that, and you find that people can't live. They've had oppressive kind of living kind of structure to live in, and the media tells them you've got to have everything to be happy. They haven't got the money to spend on the things that make them happy.
But this is true of everybody. This isn't going to be more true for white people or English people or brown people or black people.
I think it's a tipping point. I really do think it's a tipping point.
But does it not involve? Does it not involve a belief that some of the misfortunes you describe are the fault of some of the people?
No, it's just the icing on the cake. It's a scapegoat. It's happened all through history.
That's what I mean.
It's a scapegoat, but it's an easy to understand scapegoat. The average, here's another stat for you, the average reading age, you probably know this, you're clever guy, is 9 to 11 years old.
The average reading age of the average adult?
Yeah, 9 to 11, so keep it simple. Keep it not like what you were doing, dissecting it with intelligence. Keep it simple. You can get it to do anything.
I mean, it's a nickel biscuits, and I'm going to go out and paint around with that. And in a way, your portrayal is quite poignant, isn't it? I mean, I'm not suggesting anyone should lie awake at night worrying about it. But if you are so impotent that you think painting a roundabout in the middle of the night is a viable and important use of your time, there's something quite tragic about it.
I would also suggest that you're actually working when you can paint in the middle of the night. Are you actually contributing to society, or are you just an angry person looking for somewhere to vent your anger?
I've just noticed something. I've got this terrible habit when Irish people ring me of lapsing into. I start using the word grand. And it is a lovely word, but it's not one you hear often except from the lips of an Irishman or woman. And I've just noticed now, with your lovely accent, I've just said I 3 times. I've never said I in my life.
That's all right. That's all right. Join in.
I am, man. I'm doing exactly that. I've also got that story, just in case anyone thought I made it up. A reform-led council, would you believe, has started to remove flags and bunting displaying the St. George's Cross on the Union flag after concerns were raised that they would cause accidents. So as I said to, I think it was Chris and Hamill, there will be some examples of this happening. Durham County Council issued a statement, inevitably perhaps on Elon Musk's hideous platform, on Friday, saying that while the council understand and respect the community's desire to express national pride, celebration or remembrance, it is important to ensure such expressions do not compromise public safety. So a Farage's council, a reform-led council, claimed it had been left with no choice but to remove bunting. And we took a call
Tonight's newsroom at 11 o'clock. Proposed changes to border security will be outlined later as ministers move to try and ease rising tensions around the migration crisis. Migrants who've been granted asylum in the UK are expected to face tougher rules on bringing their families here. The Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, is also expected to say last month saw the lowest number of small boat crossings in August since 2019. But speaking to LBC yesterday, Reform's Deputy Leader Richard Tice says ministers are failing to deal with the issue.
The number of people crossing this year, the channel is up about 50%. The backlog is up. The number of people using that to hotels, I believe, is up. All of these metrics where the government said they were going to do something, actually the opposite is happening.
Labour says Reform UK is trying to provoke anger rather than resolve issues. As MPs return to Westminster today, Sir Keir Starmer has announced a series of new appointments to his Downing Street team. BBC's political editor Natasha Clark has more details.
Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Darren Jones, will move to number 10 in a new role to be the PM's Chief Secretary in Downing Street. Previously number 2 in the Treasury, he'll be working now to drive forward progress in key policy areas, including the plan for change. Sir Keir's also hired Baroness Shafiq, who used to work for the Bank of England, as his Chief Economic Advisor. She will support him on the economy, driving up living standards and focusing on growth.
A strong earthquake in Afghanistan has reportedly killed more than 800 people. More than 3,000 have also been injured. The magnitude 6 quake struck in the east of the country near the border with Pakistan. Flu jabs are to be offered to 2- and 3-year-olds at nurseries in England for the first time. Pregnant women and all children aged between 2 and 16 are eligible for the rollout ahead of winter. And Newcastle United have reportedly accepted a record British transfer fee from Liverpool to sign striker Alexander Isak. It's understood the Premier League champions will pay £125 million for the Swedish international. In the city, a short time ago, the FTSE 100 was trading up 17 at 92.05. The pound buys $1.35 and €1.15. LBC weather, sunny spells and showers for most today. The best of any sunshine in the east of England. Feeling cooler, highs of 21 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC,
To be honest, work had been a slog. I'm a designer, but some nights I was chasing invoices like my full-time job. Now Sage Copilot chases my invoices for me. I just need to click a button and it's done. And I get paid 1 week faster.
Sage Copilot is built with over 40 years of experience, helping real businesses like design. That's more than artificial intelligence, that's authentic intelligence. Search Sage Copilot to learn more. Working with 21 customers, each round payments begins 7 days faster with Sage Copilot. T's and C's apply.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with James O'Brien.
Five minutes after 11. I'll tell you what is quite interesting. Having a glance at applicants for Idiot's Corner this morning, when you explain the reality of some of these provocative stories, and you explain the benefit of knowledge, facts, and understanding, people feel they get taken something away from them. It's quite, I think that's really interesting. The culture, the cultivation of grievance is, there's a reason why it's a business. It's a reason why certain online platforms are full of it. People like it. People like being given something to complain about. I suppose it's a bit hypocritical for a radio phone-in host to start pointing out how much people enjoy being angered or being enraged, because it's not often what we do. But if you're doing it based on lies rather than doing it based on truth, I suppose we'll see these people around to see the consequences when it comes to what happens outside some English hotels. You are literally playing the fire. But as ever, right-wing politicians and pundits will not be witnessing those sort of scenes on their screens. I want to move into completely different territory, and I want to return to a topic I find enduringly fascinating. It's not a million miles away from what our friend in Gateshead was saying a moment ago. Oh, go on then, I'll give you a quick idiot's corner. Someone called back who's been in touch to say he wasn't Irish, you claim. So when I was explaining to, what was the name of the lad in Gateshead? I was explaining to him that when I speak to Irish callers, I sometimes catch myself saying Gran. And then I was talking to a Jordan. Did I say Jordan? It's Gateshead? I don't understand. I caught myself saying I, which is, of course, a much more popular the one bad thing is I can't get a seat in the tube, so the schools have gone back. Anyway, if you miss a day this week, if you miss a day in the first week of school, which was yesterday, it massively increases the likelihood of you missing quite a lot of school in the coming term or year. And this absolutely fascinates me. I think of it as like a hump. That first week, what parents struggle with is the tension between loving support, sometimes even quite robust support, and creating in the mind of your child the reality that they don't have to go. Most of us didn't have that as children, and we were not dealing. I know that in many ways they've got a much better life than we have got. But in other ways, it's much, much harder to be a young person today than it was when we were young. Most obviously social media and the pandemic, the consequences of which I don't think we'll fully understand for generations, if ever. But I never know how to explain the difference, because I don't really know what the difference is. So here are two children this morning, right? At 7 o'clock, 7:30 this morning. Let's paint a picture. All right, and they've got ready for school. They didn't have great attendance last year, but we've had a great summer, and they've got ready for school this morning. And they want to go, and you've talked about it during the holidays, and they want to go, and the clock is ticking around, 8 o'clock, 10 past 8, and they're ready to go. They're not skivers. They're not swinging the lead. They're not taking a mickey. They want to go to school. They may even now have a better understanding of what's at stake than they did when they were 12 or 13. They know that if they have poor attendance as 16 and 17-year-olds, then they are jeopardising elements of their future. Educational underachievement, a higher likelihood of lower life satisfaction, more likely to feel that they lack purpose in life. God forbid they could even end up painting roundabouts and hanging flags off lampposts. But that child gets to 8:30 when they're supposed to leave the house, and they phone you up because you're already at work, or they tell you because you're still at home that they can't do it. Can't do it, no. Can't do it. And now the other child, which, for the sake of argument, we will call James O'Brien, aged 14. Luckily, I was at boarding school where it's almost impossible to play truant, although I did on occasion manage it. And I just didn't like it, particularly if it was, for example, double maths first thing. And I would do anything to get out of school. When I was weekly boarding, which meant that we came home for the weekend, I did on occasion make a bowl full of, at least 2 occasions, of fake vomit, which I sort of strew over the kitchen floor and told my mum I'd been sick. I wasn't a bad student. I'm good at exams and stuff. I just had levels of boredom that were almost indescribable, and I was desperate not to go to school. So I faked an illness. It's not anxiety, but it is certainly not a reasonable cause for not going to school. And there is a temptation for almost every generation above the one that we're talking about to think that they're doing what we perhaps sometimes did, or what our mates sometimes did, which is to play hooky or to play truant or to sky school because it was boring. And I want you to tell me how to tell the difference. Because having lost months of schooling during COVID lockdowns, having been exposed to extraordinary levels of online pornography, having endured access to social media that is unprecedented for our species, and some of the nastiness and hideousness that goes along and goes on there would make your hair curl, even if you had 50 years on the clock as opposed to 15. 33% of girls surveyed said that they suffered from anxiety. Nearly 70% of girls said that anxiety had led them to skip school. I don't like the verb in this story that the Sunday Chimes chose, but I don't know which one you would use. Skip makes it sound like what I'm describing, right? Skipping school sounds like like a jolly jape. Sounds like a wizard wheeze. I'm skipping school. Let's go scrumping. Shall we go scrumping for apples? We're skipping school today. It's not skipping school. If you struggle with this, I do understand, actually. Because it's sometimes very hard to recognise how different the world is for somebody who is just guilty of nothing more than being much younger than you. But the child who really wants to go, but whose anxiety won't let them. How do you describe that? And how I mean, I don't even know if this is the time or the place to ask the question of how on earth you can help them. But it's an extraordinary piece of polling undertaken by an organisation called More in Common, and it looks particularly at young women. Higher reported levels of anxiety and mental health problems, worries about body image, lower life satisfaction. The kids, because no one can ever resist the cliche, are not, in fact, all right. So what I want you to do now, if you can, is describe to me the difference between what you might call a traditional school skipper and a young woman, or a young boy, a young man. But the story that we're focusing on is more about women. So we'll lean a little into that. The difference between a traditional school skipper and somebody who is too anxious to go to school. I really want to drill into that difference, that crucial difference between somebody cooking up a plastic bowl full of fake vomit to throw over the kitchen floor in the hope of convincing his mum that he's too sick to go to school. Or someone, is it Ferris Bueller who held the thermometer next to the light bulb so that his temperature went off the charts and he could get the day off school? Ferris Bueller, it's a cultural reference not everybody's going to get, but it's a superb film, essentially about 3 American teenagers playing truant from school so they can go off and have a fantastic adventure in New York City? I think it's New York City. Anyway, they can go off and have a fantastic adventure in the big city. The difference, because you see a headline or you read a story that says skipping school, you think Ferris Bueller, or you think, Just William, or you think, I've got to come up with a slightly more modern reference. You think naughty boys, naughty girls, skipping school. I don't really want to talk about those boys and girls today. I want to talk about the ones that want to go to school but can't. And it's not because they've got chickenpox. It's not because they've got some visible illness, some condition that marks them out from the rest of the class as being unable to go to school today. It's because of some churning internal talk that means they get up and I've got to tell you, I feel so sorry for them because they get up and they want to. Already there's the voice in the back of their head telling them they can't. What are they so scared of? 3, 4, 5, 6, 0, 6, 0, 9, 7, 3. Is that the question? What are they so scared of? And sometimes dads and mums get it wrong. And they think that what's needed is a bit of stick of carrot. Come on, you can do this. Come on, you can do this. And that could be a bit like urging somebody with 2 broken legs to hurry up. It's this massive failure of understanding from one generation to the next because we do not know what it's like to have grown up with lockdowns, pornography, social media, screen time, stress, body image. What are they so scared? It was Chicago, not New York. About 200 people texted me. Well, at least you're paying attention. Hey, hopefully you're going to provide answers to this question as well. 03456060973 is the number you need. This is not a debate about whether or not the anxiety is real, all right? There'll be plenty of radio phone-ins where you can ring in and ignorantly claim that it's not, or that kids these days don't know they're born. The anxiety is crippling, it's real, and it's keeping young women in particular away from school in ways that will impact upon their futures forever. And it is anxiety, a catch-all term, a massive umbrella under which all sorts of things sit. So what's the difference between this anxiety and the very traditional sense, particularly on a Monday night like today, but I just don't want to go to school? What's the difference between can't and won't? What's the difference between can't and don't want to? All right, and one way to answer that, I think, I could be wrong, my mind are open, is this. What are they so scared? 0345 6060973. Don't know who's best qualified to answer this. Someone who's been through it themselves, come out the other side, someone who's still in the middle of it, a parent who's trying to deal with it. But what are they so scared of, these young people who are skipping school on an unprecedented scale? And how best do you describe the difference between I can't go to school and oh mum, I really don't want to go to school? Because that's where parents know. It's 11:18.
This is LBC.
How exciting is it to play the British Heart Foundation's weekly theatre? Exciting enough to get your heart racing. Just a little bit. Like text Dalenha. The same time you text June. Like flipping pancakes with majestic grace. Or spotting that glass parking space. Yes, we've had a joy of knowing money when it helps to fund the December research. One hand to play, a thousand hands to win every week. Search British Heart Foundation Weekly Lottery. See, it's a little bit exciting.
Gamble responsibly. Over 18s only. T's and C's apply. Please see our website for more details. British Heart Foundation is a registered charity.
For whoever they want to be in life, give them a great start with Well Kid. Carefully balanced, great-tasting vitamins and minerals for 4 to 12-year-olds with specific nutrients such as zinc and vitamin D, which support normal immune system function. The Well Kid range from Vitabiotics, from Boots, pharmacies and Vitabiotics.com.
When they're away at uni and the show you all love is on telly. When you're miles apart but still laughing at the same joke. When the emojis come thick and fast.
Triple smiley face and a heart.
I knew they'd love that.
Nothing brings us together like great TV. Make sure your child has a TV license when they go to uni, so they're covered to watch all TV channels and you can still enjoy all those TV moments in the family group chat.
James O'Brien on LBC. Call 0345 6060973.
20 minutes after 11, Kirsty puts in there, skipping school was fun. Anxiety is not. Makes you feel a failure because you can't get out of the door. And that's what I want to help people listening understand. That difference between don't want to and can't. And also, and this may be an inappropriate question, in which case someone will tell me fairly early doors and I'll stop asking it. Because this is the language of my generation. What are they so scared of? Can you put it into that kind of language? I don't know. We'll find out. Amy's in Bridgewater. Amy, what would you like to say?
Hello, welcome back. So my daughter is 13. She was diagnosed with autism over lockdown. When she was about 8, as a consequence of her needs and not being able to be in a mainstream school, she missed about 4 years of education. I went through all the processes and the HCPs, and she's now in a provision. But she's been in year 9, she's going into severe anxiety, but I think we've got a solution.
Where does the anxiety stop and the autism begin? Is it even possible to know? Because there'd be an awful lot of... I don't want to use autism as a... I don't want to discriminate or distinguish between... But it's easier to understand, I think, for people listening, if autism is in play than if it isn't. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, comorbidity of autism is anxiety in varying degrees. So, I don't know whether, the two things are separate or not. But I think a combination of 4 years of missed education, trauma from mainstream, and then, her needs plays a part in the fact that she just can't go. But I do wonder if some of it will be also she's always had an out, because my default has always been to protect her mental health. And I used to teach kids. So I used to teach 14 to 16-year-old kids that were on their way of being excluded from mainstream school and were either on their way out or onto a crew, and we were sort of the next stop shop. And in my opinion and my experience, having worked with kids like that, there's always usually this. I mean, you're going to get a small amount of kids to just do it for Jakes, but I think
it's a tiny number, and completely unreal. For people who don't know, PRU is a pupil referral unit, which is where children can end up after they've been excluded from mainstream schooling. Well, this is the million-dollar question, and I'm glad that you kind of nibbled at it, because I've been reluctant to ask it otherwise. You look back, and autism is different from other issues because of masking, because of the huge toll and the exhaustion caused by the effort needed to appear, quotes, normal, quotes. If you had created, and you must think this, I think, judging by what you just said, that option was never there for a 10, 11, 12-year-old. That of course you'd have to go, however hard it is. But you protect the mental health by creating that door, and then neither of us know how often that door is used unnecessarily, because it's there.
Yes, and I think probably it's a little bit of both. I think probably, she has learned that, but I caveat that with when she is in school, she has kind of lots of therapies while she's there, and she is in a highly anxious state and feeling unsafe, even though she's in the perfect environment for her. So it's really, really tricky. But that said, she's a SEND pupil. When you've got the pupils that I used to teach that didn't come under the SEND bucket, that came under the sort of social, emotional, mental health bucket of, behaviours in school led to them being excluded. All of them that I taught had disaffected lives or had come from disaffected lives. There's always something underneath it. And I think unless that's addressed, the problem escalates, and then they end up just dropping out, full stop. They drop out of education because they're never understood, or their needs underneath it all are never fully addressed, and so on.
How can you do it in words? Can you explain the difference between can't and don't want to?
I don't think there is one.
Do you not?
Not really. Generally speaking, I don't think
children
there is.
like yours, and for probably a huge number of actually citing anxiety as a reason why they haven't once or twice a term is not going to have massive repercussions, but when you look at the overall figures, 45 school days lost by unruly children, and of course it's easy to just chalk them up as naughty kids dragging everybody else down, but some of them are issues that can also lead to anxiety and to poor behaviour. Amy, can you say what made you pick up the phone?
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to highlight my experience year 11. Absolutely fine, no problem at all, and then had a massive falling out. It started with social falling out, friendship.
Yeah.
Year 8, halfway through.
It's huge at that age. It's the only thing that matters.
Yeah, it's massive, but also what happened with her was it's just. I think she's potentially on the spectrum, but we haven't gone down the diagnosis route as yet because she doesn't want to. But it just cut so deep in her psyche that I could physically see a reaction when she was at school, like in the morning, like not so far as a panic attack, but kind of going towards that way, where you could see the body language just almost like a child shrinking physically. And a lot of swimming, you do repetitive behaviour just to self-soothe.
Right.
And she'd never really done that before, but we had to persevere for a time because we didn't know what the other options were. So
you had to school?
On some days we couldn't, as in on some days it was just too much.
What would you do? Couldn't go the threshold. But and on some level she wanted to go.
She needed to.
Right.
She didn't want to, but
Okay.
she's quite academic, so she knew she needed to for what she wanted.
This is the weirdest bit, isn't it, in terms of parenting, is that idea of knowing that this isn't an exercise in swinging a leg or an exercise in trying to avoid, I haven't done my homework, I don't want to go in today.
Yeah, there's nothing like that.
But also knowing that, or fearing, should we say, that you could be doing something else, or you could be doing something more to get her out the door, to get her into the school.
Well, I could, but The school were okay to a point, but I think they just lost interest when they were worried about their data.
Yeah.
I have to say that, because I was unhappy with how it was handled. We moved her to another school. Didn't work, because by then the damage had already been done, unfortunately, psychologically.
Is this a horrible question to ask, Sarah? What was she so scared of?
She was so hypervigilant, James,
Yes.
that she couldn't just... she couldn't relax. Now, if you can't relax for 8 hours of the day...
So she wouldn't necessarily be able to put into words what she was frightened of, but she was frightened of it happening every minute of every day.
Yeah, she was just constantly on edge.
Yeah, hypervigilance is a... Yeah, cool.
Fantastic new model school, which didn't even exist, which is independent school. We don't teach, she learns at home. She knows her full curriculum, ages of the subject, online, and it's working brilliantly.
Doesn't lose out on that kind of thing. Can you talk to me a bit, briefly, because I'm going to be late for the news, but that's the best way of establishing that I'm back to holiday. I bet even James Cleverly hit the news on time. What difference does she make?
I really like how she was learning, and she's really interested in and world views and politics. She's so engaged with knowledge. But all of that was cut off because of the anxiety that she was feeling with the physical school environment. And now the little girl, we went to Oxford last weekend, and she's even thinking this is a possibility. And she didn't even want to go to the school that's, half a mile down the road. Can you believe her? This is a really, really great outcome, and we're in a fortunate position. We have to pay for this resource.
Of course, and not everybody will be able to, but it's a recognition of something shifting in society itself, and children dealing with what I would describe as trauma. Even if there'll be someone in my inbox, no doubt, saying, we all have to deal with this kind of thing when we were young, you put your socks on, you do this and you do the other, but and that's where they ended up, how they are. Because if you don't deal with it, you do become something different. You become unempathetic, and you become angry, and you become isolated, or all of the things that you can become. So in order to guard against that, you look for new routes, and you've been lucky enough to be able to find one out before then. But you can't get there unless you've recognised that this isn't a question that can be answered with the old cliches and the old solutions, or quasi-solutions, or non-solutions. It's 11:31. Dominic Ellis is here with your headline.
Proposed changes to border security will be outlined later as ministers move to try and ease tensions around the migration crisis. People who've been granted asylum in the UK are expected to face tougher rules on bringing their families here. So Keir Starmer has shaken up his Downing Street operations. MPs returned from their summer break. Jones, previously a Treasury Minister, has been made Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister. And Royal Mail says it's made an underlying profit for the first time in 3 years. The figure, that excludes redundancy costs, shows the firm made £12 million in the year to the end of March. LBC weather, sunny spells and showers for most today. The east of England will see the best of that sunshine, highs of 21 degrees.
This is LBC.
My crystal ball tells me you'll meet a mysterious man with a spooky way of talking. You will give him money. Thank you. Then you'll see a sign.
What sign?
That one there, with exit on it.
This isn't fair. I want my money back.
Not seeing you getting your money back.
What a rip-off.
Now, how did I know you were going to say that?
Don't give your futures a chance. At Skipton, we believe in fairness, so we offer free money advice to help you plan ahead. Skipton Building Society, founded on fairness.
We check your chickens. Chicken that they're all chirpy. Look for our cotton lady. Have a benefit of chicken for cheap. Your home taste so tasty. From chicks that we've checked out. So take your chicken to the checkout. When you come your chicken check-in. Waitrose Chicken Checks Out.
The only supermarket where all our chicken checks out against the Better Chicken Commitment standard or higher.
Waitrose, the home of food lovers. Applies to all Waitrose own brand chicken.
Do it for your wife.
who told you to pick up bread, but instead you picked up Fred, your grandson, again. And now your daughter is calling because he missed football. That's the 4th time this month. You can wave his future career goodbye. If you don't do it for you, do it for your wife and little Freddie.
Book a free hearing test today at bootshearingcare.com and save up to £300 with our free technology upgrade. Boots, with you for life. T's and C's apply. See website for details.
The Virgin Atlantic holiday sale is now on. This is your sign to taste Jamaican jerk chicken so good it brings a tear to your eye. Catch a New York basement gig worth the 10-block detour. Or hit the dunes in Dubai and find sand in your pockets for weeks. Seize the sale. Book in store or online at Virgin Atlantic Holidays. Selected rooms. For T's and C's, visit virginatlantic.com.
This is LBC with James O'Brien. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
It is 11:34. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC. I sometimes worry that you think I'm exaggerating when I dissect the psychology of people possessed of opinions that have been lifted almost wholesale from a Daily Mail column. Or even Billy Buncher numbers with the Bulldog avatar on your favourite social media platform. But here's David responding to the uptick, the extraordinary surge in anxiety that our young people are experiencing, largely as a consequence of entirely unprecedented circumstances. Most obviously, the COVID lockdowns, which broke something in a lot of children, and quite a lot of grown-ups actually, and the access to social media, to pornography on the internet, things that nobody of our age had to deal with, but which we just left our own children to deal with almost unaccompanied. So David gets in touch to say, it's just bad parenting. School can be daunting and always has been, but it builds character. Now parents give in and mollycoddle. So I find myself wondering, what sort of character does it build, David? And luckily I have a little button on my switchboard that I can click to see the kind of messages that people like David send into the programme. And here's an example. Just in case you thought I was exaggerating when I drew parallels between the kind of people putting flags up, painting roundabouts, and the kind of people who use words like mollycoddle or decide that when a parent has a child crippled by anxiety, it's somehow the parent's fault. And lo and behold, here it is. Labour should use the hotel situation to ship all asylum seekers out of the hotels into fenced-off tent villages like Glastonbury with no leisure facilities or games, no TV, basically the same as what is in Calais, and they're not allowed out into the... So there it is. I mean, you know, as if by magic. Central casting provided me with the latest entry for Idiot's Corner. And that is part of the problem, because the idea that the way we used to do things was the right way to do it is an idea that's perpetrated by the victim of that system. People who have been made emotionally unavailable, people who have been left devoid of empathy or unable to feel humanity towards others, in this case ourselves. And it is a consequence of cruelty. Of course, the British Congress particularly interested. And I became even more interested in doing it. And I found myself wondering how on earth people like David Cameron could say things like, look, all right, that's a really like this life-threatening virus, which I've seen in protest. And it is absolutely when we go to this it's the obvious. Mollycoddle. Or not. Ellie is in Leamington Spa. Ellie, what made you pick up the phone?
I was particularly struck by, your compassion for the children and young people who are struggling, but also your wisdom to hear from people who have been through it.
Yes.
I've lived and breathed school non-attendance with my kids since 2014 when we became fully non-attenders in primary school. And it wasn't part of the life plan, James, at all. We had kids who were born with medical needs, so we were sitting within the health lens to begin with, and I had no idea that would become a special educational need, for example, in terms of impacting overall development and ability to learn and socialise. But it did, and what we were met with was a very rapidly changing education system with new measures around managing behaviour, literally brought in overnight, attainment levels raised overnight by 2 years, expected as a 7-year-old suddenly backtracked and that's GCSE content suddenly being expected at a much earlier age than teachers at the time, which is why we've got the curriculum and the settlement review happening at the moment, because we've radically changed so much of what's happened and how education is delivered. But in many ways, the way that children's behaviour is managed and the way that the systems respond to children and families hasn't changed, and I think that's part of the disconnect at the moment.
That's the sort of old model of tough love, stiff upper lip, almost horsewhipping a child into school, because if they say they don't want to go, that's exactly how children have always behaved, and I got forced, so they'll jolly well be forced to.
Yeah, and I tried all that. I was told to bring my child in his pyjamas or naked even. That was a suggestion. And my child was told that if I didn't do that, then I would be going to jail. So at the moment, through my website, we're calling to decriminalise school attendance. We don't think that it should be a criminal offence. We think that that's out of step and out of time and out of touch with really a more helpful approach to school attendance.
Speaks directly to all of the issues that we're covering, and is an antidote to the idea that there is blame. That's the I knew it was to talk about it. But the more you talk about the idea that this is a children are embracing enthusiastically and parents are facilitating and encouraging. It turns every morning into either a war zone or a sort of unspeakable sadness.
When people say children just doing it for James or skip your school is a choice, I think you can always see that point for maybe a couple of months, but as we know, the time in a child's life is massively magnified. So, waiting for takes forever. So if a child is out of step with their peers and is not able to access, attend or remain in school, it has massive effect. And they really feel it. They really, really feel it. And to watch my children crumble from being curious, appropriately independent, developmentally on target kids to literally shrinking and withering away. We have 77,000 families in our partner support group trying to access support every single day. And overwhelmingly, the problems are beyond control all the time. It's insecure housing, it's unaffordable transport, it's having to share a pair of shoes between 3 kids, it's not being able to keep up with the curriculum and then being sent to detention because you've forgotten your protractor. And there are schools who are trying to do their very best to put pressures on them as well. But I think we really, really need to think about how we are. What's the purpose of education? Who are we doing it for?
It's Victorian. What you're trying to undo. It's a Victorian legacy, isn't it?
Yeah, and we, our children are alert and fully aware of what is going on. We've got posters in schools at the moment. The DFE's campaign is that if children miss 5 or 10 days off school, their lifetime earnings are impacted. What are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing? So if a child has neurovirus for 2 weeks, they're then persistently absent, their family is receiving letters for non-attendance, it's rupturing the relationship with the parents. In whose interest is this approach? I successfully campaigned for a support-first approach, which has led to government guidance being updated and moving away from sanctions, but we've actually seen a 22% increase in truancy penalty notices. We've hit 500,000 issued in the last year alone.
This is where you began. I just want to clarify that. So it is perfectly feasible that some of the families that are contained within this polling in the Sunday Times yesterday, the 33% of girls saying they suffered from anxiety, the 70% of girls saying anxiety had caused them to miss school, they could then be hit with sanctions. Their parents could then be hit with truancy notices, which carry fines.
Absolutely, and a custodial sentence, worst case.
Does that ever happen?
Yes, we've seen in Teesside, which is the truancy capital of the UK, we've heard from parents who the police matrix team have broken in, arrested mum in front of her kids and put her in the cells overnight. I mean, are we really serious about breaking down intergenerational experiences of services?
Maybe I need to take David out of Idiot's Corner, because he's just the victim of a nationwide ignorance of something that probably does date back to the 19th century, in a sense that a child is, to be seen and not heard, but also that if they're not going to school, it is because they are, quote, naughty or wrong, and that parents are facilitating that.
asylum system are tinkering around the edges. The Home Secretary is due to announce proposals to tighten rules for people granted asylum bringing family members to the UK. But Cooper will address MPs this afternoon following unrest over the summer around the use of asylum hotels. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Phillips told LBC News that ministers are in denial about the scale of the borders crisis.
It's all gimmicks. You remember they said last year we're going to smash the gangs. Then they said the French are going to intervene in the water near the shore. Nothing further has been heard of that. Now we've got this 50 people a week gimmick. None of it is working. This is a crisis, and Keir Starmer is not taking the action necessary to fix it.
Sir Keir Starmer has shaken up his Downing Street operation as MPs return from their summer break. Darren Jones, previously a Treasury Minister, will be responsible for helping to deliver the Prime Minister's priorities. BBC's political editor Natasha Clark has more details.
He'll be the Prime Minister's Chief Secretary in Downing Street. As you say, it is a new role. He'll be working to drive forward progress in key policy areas of importance to the PM, including the plan for change. Sir Keir has also hired someone called Baroness Shafiq. She used to work for the Bank of England. That will be his new Chief Economic Advisor. So a really big financial support in the economy, living standards.
The big number of people killed in a strong earthquake in eastern Afghanistan has reached more than 800. Thousands more have been injured after the magnitude 6 quake struck last night. It's claimed the Queen once used her shoe to fight off a man who tried to indecently assault her on a train when she was a teenager. A new book suggests Camilla told Boris Johnson about the encounter when he was mayor of London. The palace hasn't commented on the story. The Queen has dedicated her royal charity work to supporting victims of sexual assault. Royal Mail says it's made an underlying profit for the first time in 3 years. The figure excludes redundancy costs, shows the firm made £12 million in the year to the end of March, and compares with losses of £336 million the year before. It's the first set of results since Royal Mail was taken over by the Czech billionaire Daniel Kudinski's EP Group earlier this year. In the City a short time ago, the FTSE 100 was trading up 12 at 92.01. The pound buys $1.35 and a euro 15. LBC weather, sunny spells and showers for most going into the afternoon. The best of any sunshine in the east of England. Feeling cooler, highs of 21 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Dom Maniganis.
Arenas full of fans. Stars taking it to another level. The excitement, the glory, the action. And you could be behind it all. Kickstart your career in esports with Global Academy's new esports production sixth form course. Get the skills and knowledge to join a fast-growing media industry. And you could even join Global Academy's own esports team. Thinking what next after GCSEs? Then find out more about the esports production sixth form course at globalacademy.com.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with James O'Brien.
It's 3 minutes after 12. Would you like a little bit of homework? Would you like a challenge? So I want to talk about, there's 2 good news stories today that we're not going to dedicate a whole hour to, because I can't quite see the way. We're going to take a guest on this £10 billion deal that has been signed with the Norwegian government to supply them with anti-submarine warships. It seems really significant. The more you read into that story, the more significant it becomes. It's not just the safeguarding of thousands of jobs until well into the 2030s. It also speaks to a sort of strengthening of NATO's northern flank and the idea that this is part of the recalibration of Western defence caused largely by the combination of Vladimir Putin's aggression and his puppet Donald Trump's acquiescence in the face of that. Puppet's probably not quite the right word to use, but anyway, the changing nature of the world. So we'll get onto that towards the end of this hour with General Sir Richard Barrons, who co-authored the UK Strategic Defence Review. The other story is about the childcare costs, but given that that is only kicking in today, it might be a little bit too soon to cast an eye over it. That's your homework, by the way. How can you come up with an interesting radio phone-in based upon the rollout to every parent earning under £100,000 in this country of 30 hours a week of free childcare? A couple of colleagues already pointing out flaws in it. Perhaps a slight element of letting the perfect be the enemy of the good. This is definitely an improvement of what went before. Inevitably, the Daily Mail's already trying to find fault with it, find pit holes in it. Bridget Phillipson was warned last night that her flagship childcare plan because of Labour's national insurance rate. So, again, wait and see. A big slice of wait and see pie. But when we are serving up that wait and see pie, how do you think we should do it? That's your homework, and I should take all of your suggestions very, very seriously. But next, something rather different. In fact, something that we've never done before. How often do we do that? Does anyone actually keep score? Eleanor? Keith? Anybody? Does anybody keep score? How often did James Cleverly do a topic last week that we've never done before on the program? Did he do any brand new box fresh from Dingus? Straight out of the... I bet Lewis Goodall had a couple, didn't he? Up his sleeve. But something that we've never actually done before. There's so little... What is it? How much? There is more to heaven and earth, Horatio, than is dreamt of in philosophy. And there is more to heaven and earth than is dreamt of in our phone talks. But usually, given that I've been doing this job for so long, you're going to circle back to something that you've done before. And there are elements of the story that I'm about to share with you that will be familiar, but I don't think that we have actually addressed it from precisely this point. And this point is, why is this country so poorly equipped to help people get fit? It's a West Streeting initiative in conjunction with the former runner and the founder of the Great North Run, Sir Brendan Foster. It's called Get Britain Moving. It's a campaign designed to motivate people who do not normally take regular exercise to fit walking or running into their weekly routines. So we'll do the kind of upbeat public service broadcasting on the one side. Is what did you do? How did you get moving? But that's a half of the topic, because what really caught our eye was these comments from Dr. Fiona Spotswood, who's an associate professor in marketing and consumption at the University of Bristol Business School, and she welcomes the idea, welcomes the initiative. I totally support it in the sense that we should be spending our money on generating an active nation. But she points out how hard it is for people to actually get physically active. Let me read you what she said. This, for me, just smacks of every other public health physical activity campaign that there has ever been. There is a reason why we are, as a nation, not as physically active. It is not built into the fabric of our everyday lives. I've just come back from the Alps. The whole system there is set up for sport. There is easy access to cheap physical activity. It is expected that you will cycle or walk. We just don't have that in the UK. It is not built into the fabric. It can be difficult to walk places, particularly in deprived communities. We are worried about our safety. If you go into the woods, there are no signposts. Don't at me to tell me that you went into the woods this weekend and there were loads of signposts. It's a generalisation, all right? It's not a specific prescription. And it's true. You go to other countries and the ease with which you can engage in physical activity is noticeable. It's notable, and it's obviously really important. So there are two questions here. Why do you think? How would you prove it? And this is tricky, right? Because you might not have woken up this morning thinking, I'm going to ring James today, I'm going to ring LBC today. But I am very middle class. I've always been middle class. I was born middle class, and unless there's some extraordinary wheel of the natural universe, I will die middle class. And I don't know what would prove to a skeptic that it is very difficult to exercise, because my background doesn't include or involve it being very difficult to exercise. I mean, I can speculate if I lived on the 20th floor block of flats in a part of town with no green areas. Then I thought about this a bit during lockdown. That was the first time that I acknowledged the social capital of class. The fact that when we were only allowed to walk, was it 20 minutes a day or 40 minutes a day? But you remember when we were allowed out for an hour every day, and you had to stay within the environs of your own home. The fact that I lived near the River Thames was extraordinary. Obviously I moved there, so I knew the River Thames was around the corner. It wasn't like, oh my God, there's a river 2 streets over, darling, this is incredible. But and part of the reason that we moved there would be chalk and cheese. And that was our front door, remember. You weren't allowed to drive. So even when I grew up in Kidderminster, you could drive to nice places for a rural walk. You could drive to Hamerley Valley, or you could drive to Hercott Pools, or you could drive to, probably walk to Broadwaters. I appreciate this is a bit niche, but you take my point. You could do the same in your town. But what lockdown taught us was that your front door, the front door of your flat or your house, has a very specific relationship with both countryside but also exercise. Walking being the most obvious exercise. I mean, this whole scheme is called Get Moving. The idea that you get moving. But what if there is nothing on your doorstep that you want to move through? There is nothing on your doorstep that you want to move into. So I get this right, because it's tricky, isn't it? I don't want to sound sloppy, and I certainly don't want to sound patronising or condescending. But I don't know what it would be to have no access to the ability to exercise and nowhere nice to walk. So how would you explain to me how hard it is for you to exercise, even if that exercise is just a nice walk? Do you see what I mean? 0345 60 60 973. Because of course, getting from that's why I'm talking about the front door. You can't drive if you haven't got a car. You might not be able to afford the bus. Of course, everybody is within striking distance of nice areas, but not walking distance. So Get Britain Moving is all very well if Britain was a country geared towards exercise and movement. And it isn't. And that, I think, is where the second question comes in. And that is one that I want you to think a bit more deeply about, if you don't. Because this question is why? Why is Britain not more geared towards physical? What is it in our history, in our culture, in our past? Apart from the very popular new exercise of painting roundabouts and hanging up bunting, why is it that our infrastructure, our society, is not as sports-friendly as it could be? Not as sports-friendly or as exercise-friendly as other countries are? Am I right in thinking, you know how we guard very furiously against my day-itis on this program, the idea that everything was better in my day? I think it was better when in my day. I just sort of... I mean, kids playing outdoors, I don't know. There's a cage near me. There's a children's playground for the younger children, and there's a basketball cage in the same space for the older children, for the teenagers. And I love it when it's busy. A bunch of kids playing football or a bunch of kids playing basketball as I walk the dog through the park. I love that. And that is in the part of town. It's a nice park, but it's surrounded by tower blocks, and it obviously serves a great purpose. But it's tiny. There's nothing, permanent or substantial about it. And if you're not mates with the lads that are playing, then you're probably not going to get a game that night at all. So why is the UK so poorly equipped with opportunities to exercise? Okay? But before we get to that, I really want you to tell me what it's like to not have... And lockdown may have really brought this home. You've got to get out of the house for an hour a day, or you can only get out of the house for an hour a day, and you're going to walk around some post-industrial dystopia. I was looking at St. Elmo of where I live now. There used to be gas lines as far as the eye could see around where the little temple went. It was absolutely... God knows what the breath, what the air tasted like, but it was hideous. And if that was my doorstep growing up, it would have been a very different experience, River Thames or no river. So what is it like to live? What is it like to live in a home where access to the open space or access to the opportunity to exercise is either very, very limited or non-existent? Okay, hit the numbers now, you will get through. 0345 60 973. Second question, why is this country so poorly equipped, so poorly prepared in this particular field? And then actually, glancing at the board, someone's already answered the third question. I haven't even asked it yet, so let's stick that on the board as well. Make a comparison. So this expert compares it to clubs. This worked really well when we did it with school dinners, didn't it? We found out what children have been served in schools in other European countries. What have you got experience from somewhere else that would be an example of how things could be So there's three ways into this. Number one, what's it like not to have access to the space to exercise? 0345 6060 973. Number two, why is this country so bad in this field? Why have we got so little? And number three, what's it like in other countries? What's it like in other countries that you have knowledge of? What would you point to that will make me, as someone who's never lived anywhere else, go, what, really? And that's just free. They just provide that for everybody. And you can just go there and you can just do... Wow. Wow, where's streeting? We need this. This is what we need. Not more leaflets coming through our letterbox, but this thing that they have in Germany, or this thing that they have in Switzerland, or this thing that they have in France. Hit the numbers now. You will get through.
This is LBC.
As it's free to sell in your local area on eBay, I was thinking maybe I should sell that bench press. Oh, that's literally unbenched. And this guitar that I've forgotten how to play. Must be the buyer for the chest of drawers I listed yesterday. And I'm still in my pyjamas. Be with you in a sec.
With new listing features, it's easy to sell for free in your local area on eBay. Download the app now. eBay. Things people love. T's and C's apply. Excludes vehicles.
How exciting is it to play the British Heart Foundation's weekly flutter? Ka-ching! Exciting enough to get your heart racing. Just a little bit. Like texting a mate. The same time they text you. Like flipping pancakes with majestic grace. Or spotting that last parking space. Yes! With the added joy of knowing the money you donate helps to fund life-saving research. £1 to play, £1,000 to win every week. Search British Heart Foundation Weekly Lottery. See? It's a little bit exciting.
Gamble responsibly. Over 18s only. T's and C's apply. Please see our website for more details. British Heart Foundation is a registered charity.
Nobody asked for.
We have spinal tap! Stonehenge!
Tap is back, so I turn it back up to 11. It's the return of Spinal Tap on the big screen. Spinal Tap 2 only in September 12th.
James O'Brien on LBC. Call 0345 6060
Andrew's in Cumberland. Andrew, what would you like to say?
I would just like to say that I know that the people that really benefit most from being able to get out and exercise and move. But because I'm so limited in my abilities at the moment, I would need some sort of physical infrastructure to help me. There are ways other than the marketing genius of Liz and the video that pops up on my media feed occasionally. And what he said is that if you're physically able, or reasonably physically able, you can live in the world quite easily. But if I'm usually armed already in reasonable physical shape, what they need is somewhere to sit every few yards so you can walk for a few minutes, have a sit down, take a breather, get water, walk for 3 minutes again, and do that. You could have to do that easily if the physical infrastructure was in place for me to do that.
Well, it's a fancy
it can have a positive impact on the other.
So this isn't new to you then? I mean, you've clocked what this expert has clocked as a consequence of how you're living. You know that you should be doing this, you would like to be doing this, but you can't do this because Britain is not a place where it's easy to get moving.
Nobody back this up a top priority in terms of this needs to be doing. A local council is not exactly going to say in cash grab claims, well, let's get
messages saying there are over 853 parklands in the UK. Regarding that, I don't know if it's but that's not much use to you, is it?
No, you've got to be reasonably physically or in the first place to go in a park. So that's kind of where you want people to get to, is they could be going through a park run. But for those of us that couldn't even in our wildest dreams even think about a park run, what do you do to get us moving so that in 10 years' time or whatever, somebody that thinks physically unable to move?
Could he not get a lightweight camping chair?
Lightweight for me, James, come on. I've got to come back around with me. I've got to try and get down 6 flights of stairs from the flat back up again. Yeah, come on.
So
let's get real.
I thought it was.
It's a couple of times a month now.
Serious?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But the idea that you're going to be able to go or start doing aerobics.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I say if you can do something that helps, gets people to do something for their physical health, their mental health, and come along with it.
Follow. I mean, you're right. And when you take that seriously, it's a sad picture that you paint, although clearly not a sad person. It's just sad circumstances in which you find yourself, where streeting recognised need to be improved. But it's all going working to Britain or telling Britain to get moving without telling them how, or indeed putting the stuff in place to help them. 23 minutes after 12 is the time. I mean, hands up, seriously, if you reckon you do the 150 minutes or more in 20 minutes a day. I do, because I walk fast to work, especially if I come over the bridge, and also I play tennis 2 or 3 times a week, so that's quite I'm not suggesting for a minute that every tennis court in the country is part of some leafy suburbia, which are often empty. I don't notice it myself. Why are anyone playing tennis? But I don't know why Andrew is playing tennis. I don't know what it's free, or at least if it's not free, you've got quid on the meter. You even have to pay if someone bothers to come round and check. And there are some that are definitely free. I can think of 3 within walking distance of my house. But I pay to be a member. So that's already moving into the realm of taking it away from you. 50 quid or whatever you spare every year, not every month. It's not get carried away. It's not really. To 24 hours. What in this country are we so bad at this thing? Marita is in Lambeth. Marita, what would you like to say?
Hey James, how's it going? Good. So I haven't come across an equivalent in England in all the time I've been here, but in Ireland, you compete in your parish.
I've seen it. I'm going to get my passport back. I know about the hurling, but there's the other one as well that's mostly for women, and it sounds a bit like Kaniki, but it's not Kaniki.
It's Camogie.
Camogie, yes.
Camogie, yeah.
And that'd be quite small units that field the team, won't they?
That would be a parish. So there's 2 things. So there's community games and there's the GAA.
Right.
So the GAA, obviously, is embedded throughout Ireland. It's in every single parish.
Yeah.
So you could have like a parish like, say, Shannon, and then you could have another parish like 6 Mile Bridge, which is maybe 3 or 4 miles away. And they all have their own individual local teams and then have their own pitches.
I was going to say they'll have a ground as well. Exactly. A little bit of infrastructure there, and the social club probably as well. So there's all sorts going on.
Usually the pub is located close by.
Yeah.
So it's part of our culture. It's massive in Ireland, it's part of our culture. So from when you're a kid, you learn how to play hurling or game football, or camogie if you're a girl, or ladies, game football. It just happens. And look, the infrastructure is there.
That's the question. Yeah. Why did it? Why still in this country? I'm not sure. A little bit more space. I don't know that we ever had every every village, every hamlet turning out a football team or a rugby team. And Camoki's 15 aside, isn't it? So, and everyone will get involved in some way.
Yeah, exactly. While I was on hold, I was trying to think what the equivalent in the UK might be. I was thinking maybe stop like football in terms of having like a football pitch in every locality. But, yeah.
I don't know where my nearest football pitch to my house is Brentford, but I'm not allowed to play there. Being a Premiership type of stuff. I don't know where the nearest I just wanted to have a kick. And yeah, the village I was visiting most recently, in the high hundreds, but it looks like a whole team and it's not as if Ireland is a wealthier country than we are. It's not as if Ireland has anything really that we don't have potentially. So why do they have this sporting tradition and we don't? Martin's in Burton-on-Trent. Martin, what would you like to say?
I just wanted to relate my experience of having been in New Zealand for about 4 years, working about 10 years ago. When our children were enrolled into the local school, you paid a very small deposit type fee, about £10, if memory serves me right, for the year, and you were given the key to the local outdoor swimming pool. And at weekends and during school holidays, you could use the whole of the school grounds for picnics. You could use the children's play park to do exercise. You could take the children to the swimming pool, and you had to supervise your own children. There were concerns about health and safety and all the other aspects, but your children, ironically, took advantage of being with their parents. Also, the vandalism just did not exist in any of these places because the whole village was used in the school all the time. Even people were encouraged to take their golf sticks with them and not. I wonder if we're nibbling
at the edges of something bigger then. So why do you think we don't do any of this stuff here?
Because I don't believe we're as inclusive. We have lots of real estate in schools, in prisons, in factories, lots of different organisations. They've got facilities, but they're sort of siloed into, we can only use this for patients if it's a hospital, as an example. For the school, we can only do it during the school term, and it's just for the kids that attend school.
But was it all? How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 68.
68. So what was it like 40 years ago? No, 50 years ago. Would it be easier? Would it be easier to go out in Burton-on-Trent and do something that was physically strenuous 50 years ago than it is now? Or not?
I think our choice and our ability to move around the local area has, to a certain extent, been taken away from us, in as much as most of it is controlled by the council. And the council-controlled stuff are good facilities, but they're incredibly expensive.
And if there's no profit to be made, then several governments in the last 50 years would have had no interest in it whatsoever. And indeed, if it was costing the council, there'd have been, if there was anything left when austerity started in 2010, it would have been nibbled away at, of course, in the next 14 years. So New Zealand's better than us. The Alps is better than us. Ireland, that's a good comparison. Ireland is better than us at this. So it's not the weather. What is it? What is it about this country, about these islands, that has, as we sort of settle in 2025, left us so poorly equipped with the things that we need to live longer, happier, healthier lives? Thank you, Martin. It's brewery country, Burton-on-Trent, so if you can't do much exercise, but you can get a cracking pint. Here's Amelia Cox with your headlines.
The Conservatives are accusing the government of tinkering around the edges with reforms on border security and the asylum system. The Home Secretary is expected to announce proposals to tighten rules for people granted asylum bringing family members to the UK. Sir Keir Starmer has returned from Parliament's summer break with a shake-up to his Downing Street operation. Former Treasury Minister Darren Jones will be Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, a new ministerial role which will attend Cabinet. And flu jabs are being offered to 2- and 3-year-olds at nurseries in England for the first time. Pregnant women and all children aged between 2 and 16 are eligible for the rollout ahead of winter. LBC weather, a mixture of clouds and occasional sunny intervals with scattered showers. These will ease in the east this evening, a high of 21 degrees.
This is LBC.
With an Amex business card, Selena's earning points renovating her skin clinic and refreshing the builders.
14 coffees and 28 sugars, please.
And on new adjustable chairs for every room. And she can use the points to lie back and relax.
Don't put ice cream on your brother's head.
Well, sometimes. And that's because with an Amex business card, your points can go towards holidays and more.
Search Amex Business Card. Terms and annual fees apply. 18+. Subject to status. Basic card also available with no annual fee, rewards or other features.
Would anyone like some Bourneville dark chocolate? Is it so dark the aftertaste lasts for a week? No.
Does it taste really, really complicated?
What? Is it saturated in nibs?
So dark it comes with a therapist?
To the uneducated palate, does it taste like burnt tyre?
Would scientists compare the taste to dark matter?
Is it artisanal in all caps?
Are the tasting notes gloom?
No pretentiousness, no complexity, no bitterness. Just smooth dark chocolate from Cadbury. Cadbury Bourneville, made to be enjoyed, not endured.
The Hilton sale is now on, so you don't have to book last year's hidden gem, which was hidden for a reason. Rustic charm, translation, no aircon, no Wi-Fi, and one goat. This year you booked your stay with Hilton. Spacious rooms, total relaxation. Let Hilton sales save your summer. Get away with up to 20% off. Book now at Hilton.com. Hilton, for the stay. Offer subject to availability. Terms and conditions apply.
It's Munich, 1936, and all eyes are on the capital for the upcoming Olympic Games. As athletes fight for gold and the Nazis fight for power, Detective Sebastian Wolf faces a battle of his own. In a search that will take him from high society to the city's darkest corners, Wolf is about to learn just how easily the hunter becomes the hunter. Evil in High Places is the gripping new historical thriller from the million-copy bestseller Rory Clemens. Out now in hardback, ebook, and in audio.
James O'Brien. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
12:34 is the time. There's a lot going on there. I tell you this topic is never done. An element of it. We talk about obesity and find our way into how hard it is to get the weight off. So, but difficulty. Where's streets from? Get quick and moving. But why is the wrong person how hard it is to get just I mean, certainly for demonising cycling. We're adding to the list with Maxine and boundary closures that when she was there, when her children were young, parents were not allowed to drive into school. Strictly forbidden. Poor children. Yeah, you'll see what's going on. Very small, where there are plenty of spaces for children and ample open air space with free gym equipment. Everyone young and old uses it on a regular basis. It's just a small amount of thing. Go to the gym. Quite a lot of people go to the gym, but would we not use the equipment in the park? I mean, if you were worried about your weight, you probably wouldn't use the equipment in the park, would you? Because you wouldn't want everybody to be gawping at you. And that's the same as, you want to go to the gym. It's tricky. It's just really tricky. Oh, and the council didn't pay the bill. I'd give a shout out to Hounslow Council, actually, because it was the Brentford Creative Mile this weekend. It's just incredible. The whole town dedicated to art. And about 50 different venues where you could just poke your head in. I even got over the river to a boatyard that's not normally open to the public. I've been waiting for years to have a butcher's over there. It's just incredible stuff. And loads of art and venues. Just an example, not exercise-based, but culture of what can happen with a really vibrant community spirit and support from the local council. So I don't know why we are so bad at this in this country. David's in Boston, in Lincolnshire. David, what would you like to say?
Thanks for having me on.
Very well.
Basically, I mean, I've listened to some of your callers, and yeah, they are right. Now, I live in Lincolnshire, which, as most people know, is beautiful countryside. Yes, there's plenty of areas for walking, but that said, it is down to whether you feel safe, whether you feel comfortable walking in them areas. There's a lot of areas cornered off because of building or once it's private property. So you then look at going to the gym. Now, I actually signed up to the gym.
What do you mean by cornered off? I'm not trying to trick you up.
A lot of farmers, I mean, we're not farming community, rural area. But of course, farmers don't want you walking across their fields. Yes, okay, I understand that they might have had bad pasts where people have been robbing bits or doing things to animals there, but even public right-of-ways are fenced off, where you can't just freely walk across places anymore.
So you don't have the right to roam, and ramblers and things like that have been a bit demonised. Do you think it's feudal? Do you think, because we never had a revolution, and a lot of the other countries that we're talking about have been through a history of occupation or revolution, and so the actual rights of the citizen, rather than sticking up and painting round the house, they should actually be insisting on having access to open spaces and trying to improve the lives of their farmers. And landowners and aristocrats are thinking around my way. There's a duke or two who can't get near the river on the land that they own.
There is that, but also it doesn't help that, I mean, I work as a lorry driver, I drive all over the UK, and I'm seeing building sites come up in beautiful parts of the area. You know, they're ripping up fields and areas of natural beauty to put 200-300 houses on it. Now, I know that the UK's growing.
You're not having that. There's more golf courses in this country than there is actually housing. I'll take most of what you've said, but I travel around the country a lot of work, and the government expanse are absolutely endless.
So this is what I'm saying about your expenses. You look at the cost of fuel to travel to some of them, or the bus, if there is actually a bus service out there.
This is going to be true everywhere.
Yeah, and this is why, you know, I think that Britain isn't getting out and about.
Well, that's going to be true everywhere. It's going to be true. I mean, no one's got free bus travel unless you're an old age pensioner. No one's going to be. I mean, I'm trying to think of things that are specific to Britain. I would imagine that you in Boston have actually got it better than most people listening to you at the moment. You're just not. The grass is always greener, and the access at least to open spaces is going to be much better than it is for someone living in the city.
It is, yes, and I agree, if you can afford the bus fare or the railway fare to get out, because public transport in some respects, I mean, yes, I live in Boston, but the bus services out of Boston is absolutely atrocious.
No, I don't take that. I won't put that on the list. So infrastructure includes transport, doesn't it? The infrastructure is not there. There's certainly nowhere in the next step where I want to exercise. But 2 miles away, there's nothing. Walker could go on. Back to Andrew in Cumbernauld, who hasn't got a hope in hell of getting to that spot, let alone somebody who's not got the health issues that he's got. If you can't afford the bus fare, you're not doing it. So how do you get Britain moving if Britain can't move? Cameron's in Farringdon. Cameron, what would you like?
Hi, James. Just first time caller. So, yeah, I wanted to sort of, I'm sorry about being out, but I thought I'd sort of give 2 sides to from like the point your first caller said about the benches in the parks, or even, I don't know, 4G football pitches, in town centres. Plumbing's going to be your biggest issue, isn't it? And trying to get the local councils.
We just sort of, I know really, there's something here, isn't there, that we're nibbling at, that we're not actually nailing down. Almost all of the objections we've heard could also have been true, but they're not. There's just something about our attitude here that prevents us from doing things that would... Well, our attitude and our accent. That's the point I'm trying to make. It's probably 52-48, and I don't know which way round it is. There's something about our attitude. So we've done a lot on the access. Cameron's strong on the access. Difficulty. The fella in Boston, David, access. But attitude is part of it as well, I think. Maybe we're a bit less comfortable flirting with the idea that we're a lazy nation. We're a lazy people. Are we a lazy people? Are we a lazy nation? Do foreigners come here and think, God, you're a lot of lazy? You know, say, no, we're not. We were up all night painting roundabouts. I bet you don't do that in Malmo or Ireland, do you? No. See? I don't know. Keith is in Jedburgh. Keith, what would you like to say?
Good afternoon, James.
Hello, Keith.
You spoke a couple of weeks ago, your friendly, frugal Scotsman.
Nice to hear from you, frugal Keith.
No, James, you know that I'm going to sell to you the Scandinavian principle again.
Yeah.
Because it's almost in the Constitution that Sundays are the day of rest, that you get out into the forest, you go out on the sea, you do whatever. It's like your reward.
It's no warmer than here. I mean, it's a bit... a friend of mine just got back from Norway, and she was waxing lyrical about how beautiful it was.
It's incredible.
But we've got some beautiful areas. Just getting to them is the problem.
Well, if you think you're like this, James, I can sell Scandinavia to the Scots, and I can sell Scotland to the Scandinavia. And it's all about what you see in front of you, James. When I came back from Scandinavia, I got into youth work here, and I started working at a youth project, and I got took on as basically an outdoor instructor. And this was in a town, but these kids, they didn't want to leave the town. It's all about making it interesting, James.
You're right.
It's how you sell the package. Now, what I did with the kids, there was 117 steps in the town, and we got a group together, and we went to see how many times we could go up and down the steps. When we counted all up, we had 5 venues.
And that would work. Are we a lazy nation? I just said, so guess now, access, so loads of the access. I'll tell you what, next time we do this, I won't be able to say
The Prime Minister says new availability of free childcare is a landmark moment for parents. But is it? For which parents? And where exactly?
Sheila Fogarty on LBC.
With an Amex business card, Selena's in their parts renovating her ski life and professional goals.
14 coffees and 28 sugars, please.
And new adjustable chairs for every room. And she can use the points to lie back and relax.
Don't put ice cream on your brother's head.
Well, sometimes. And that's because with an Amex business card, your points can go towards holidays and more.
Search Amex Business Card. Terms and annual fees apply. 18+. Subject to status. Basic card also available with no annual fee for rewards and features. Maxwell just give Barry a moment. He's processing.
Because he's just discovered that Lidl stocks over 320 big brands.
Wait till he discovers we have hundreds of awarded unbrand products too. Like Rose's entire lines.
And Lidl is more to value than you ever could have fathomed. The new single drops. The world tour begins. As artists create the music we love, you could be right there in the mix. Calling all young creatives. If you want a career in music, then listen up. Global Academy have a new 6-form music production course. State-of-the-art studios, practical experience, hands-on learning with music professionals. Awesome! Apply now at globalacademy.com.
How exciting is it to play the British Heart Foundation's weekly flutter? Ka-ching! Exciting enough to get your heart racing. Just a little bit. Like texting a mate. The same time they text you. Like flipping pancakes with majestic grace. Or spotting that last parking space. Yes! With the added joy of knowing the money you donate helps to fund life-saving research. £1 to play, lots of pounds to win every week. Search British Heart Foundation Weekly Lottery. See, it's a little bit exciting.
Gamble responsibly. Over 18s only. T's and C's apply. Please see your website for more details. British Heart Foundation is a registered charity.
Is it so dark the aftertaste lasts for you?
Does it taste really
Is it saturated in lips?
so dark it comes with a therapist?
To the uneducated palate, does it taste like burnt tire?
Would scientists compare the taste to dark matter?
Is it artisanal in all caps?
Are the tasting notes boring?
No pretentiousness, no complexity, no bitterness. Just smooth dark chocolate from Cadbury. Cadbury Bourneville, made to be enjoyed, not endured.
This is LBC. Message James O'Brien on WhatsApp now on 0345 6060 973.
12:48 is the time. I told you there were two stories in the news today. Sort of rather benign general sense of a nation in decline. Although there is plenty of evidence of decline or problems and polling on how many people think the country is broken. I wonder whether we should be paying a little bit more attention to the rundown today of 30 hours a week, free trade for all working parents earning £100,000 a year. And I think, in some senses, even more exciting, the news of this £10 billion deal signed with Norway to provide anti-submarine warships. You can probably tell from my tone and my stumbles that this is not an area in which I consider myself to be anything close to an expert. Happily, General Sir Richard Barrons is here. He is, as you know, the co-author of the UK Strategic Defence Review and formerly a commander of the Joint Forces Command. I forget who it was who talked about some numbers being too big for us to get our heads around, but this is, I presume, both a huge number, Sir Richard, and also a pretty huge deal.
Really good news for the country because on so many levels it means that the UK and Norway will operate the same best of class in the world anti-submarine warfare frigate. So that will use the control keeping Russia at bay in the Atlantic for a number of years. That's good for Scotland, it's good for the supply chain. It's good for the development of the missiles and other things that will shut down this because they will remain over time. And it's very good news for the UK's reputation as a defence manufacturer.
And how significant is it to the sort of changing world order? I mean, thinking about the relevant flank of NATO, the aggression that Putin shows no sign of dialing down, and of course the abandonment of the traditional role that the United States has played in Western defence by Donald Trump, or am I reading too much into it?
So the first good news is both Norway and the UK are buying really high quality anti-submarine warfare frigates. That's a good thing, but the numbers between them are still quite small. It's also a bit of a red herring, because the future for navies, armies and air forces is how they become a mix of things like the Type 26 frigate, but increasingly the drones that fly, go on the water and go underwater that add mass and endurance to that sort of capability. And so Type 26 is going to be the heart of the maritime network, and that is where the real deterrent power will be. Yes, we do. So the US and France and Germany are interested in this contract. So it's a great boost for UK shipbuilding. Remember, the same type of ship, the Type 26, that is going to be built and operated by Canada and Australia. So this is big.
I just want to take you back. I understand why you said it was a red herring, but the world is changing, isn't it? And we are going to have to rely more on ourselves and our European allies
UK and sustains our daily life because it comes under the sea. So this is important not just to defence, it's important to how we protect the resilience of our daily national life. And the point I think we need to echo here, and it was in the review very strongly, is we once used to think about defence as something the armed forces went off and did on their own. And now we're in a world where every citizen is part of a whole of society approach to national resilience and endurance. And we haven't had to think about anything like that since the Cold War finished in 1989.
You talk a lot in the review with your two colleagues about integration, don't you? And that's what you're nodding to here. What else? This being very good news, as we've established, going back to the Strategic Defence Review that you undertook on behalf of the Prime Minister, what else would you like to see in the short term rather than the long term?
So the Ministry of Defence is about to conclude what it calls the Defence Investment Plan, and that converts the review into detailed programmes that allocate money to projects. So we need them to get on with that and to tell us about it, so we know what's really going to happen. And the second thing, and it's really important in the review, is we described a new industrial partnership led by a new National Armaments Director. And it would be really good if the government could get on with appointing the new Armaments Director. But what we need to see is this industrial policy which attaches not just to industry but to big lumps of private capital investment in defence. We need to see that working because that will make things move faster and better.
The final question, do we know what it was that... I mean, I know the Norwegian Prime Minister has talked of the very close ties and common interests and history between Norway and Great Britain. Do we know what pushed us over the line? Do we know why we got the nod on this in preference to France or Germany or the US?
So I think the first thing is that Tank 26 design is really good.
So this is something we should be singing from the rooftops then, a sort of world-beating technology.
I would say Tank 26 is the best of its type. So it won because it's good. And I think the second thing is, and this was done, I think, extremely well, just how the government lent into the export campaign. So John Healey, the Defence Secretary, General Bryn Jenkins, who's now the First Sea Lord, they invested a lot of effort in going to Norway and setting out our school. They deserve plaudits for that.
Fantastic, and thank you as well for giving us some rare good news, I suppose, against the backdrop of the Norwegian Prime Minister also warning that his country is facing its most serious security situation since World War II. General Sir Richard Barrons, thank you so much. Co-author, as I said, of the UK Strategic Defence Review, former commander of the Joint Forces Command, and pretty unequivocal, really, in the importance of this deal and the significance of it, and indeed the role played by the current government securing it. 12:56 is the time. One more call, I think, or maybe two. Let's see how we get on this question of why. I'm going to try and nudge people more to attitude than access if I can, but I can only work with the callers that I've already got. Explains the British reluctance to exercise. Is it laziness? Is it embarrassment? Are we more self-conscious than others? So there's some lovely gym equipment in a park near me, and I wouldn't go on it because I'd worry that I'd do it wrong, or that someone might laugh, or that a big boy would come along and push me off it. Yoni's in Rochester. Yoni, what would you like to say?
Actually, no fight on me. I did want to talk about attitude, actually, because I've been thinking about this while I've been on hold. So I spent some time in China, unfortunately, right around lockdown.
Okay.
And before that happened, there were big squares filled with people between 40 and 90 exercising to music. And